Welcome once again to the channel. My name is Edwin Maina. I'm a teacher, IB teacher in Mumbai. And in this series, I've been talking about social emotional learning, SEL, and well-being of students in international schools. And this is something that is very prevalent and very relevant to today's teacher and student. So last time we looked at self-management, self-awareness among students. And this time I'm going to talk about communication skills. Why is it important to teach students how to communicate well? And what does it mean actually when students can communicate well? So without much ado, allow me to first start by defining communication skills. And allow me to read something here. In the IB, communication as an ATL, approaches to learning skill, is the ability to effectively and confidently exchange thoughts and information through various methods. This includes developing strong verbal, written, non-verbal, and visual communication, as well as active listening and the ability to interpret and use symbols. So it is two ways. You're communicating and you're also listening to other people. So it is not just how well the student is able to express themselves. It is not just how well they write. It is not just how well they communicate. It is also how intentionally and how patiently they listen to other people. And someone has said that you have not quite communicated until the other person can actually repeat to you what you said or even what you wrote, and paraphrased it in their own words. Because paraphrasing forces someone to think about what you said, about what you've written, and then now put it in their own words. So that is communication. Why is communication important today? Number one, because you cannot be a good learner without communication. If you're talking of assessment, if you're talking of homework, if you're talking of tasks, if you're talking of classwork, you must communicate your ideas effectively. Some students practice leadership. You cannot be a good leader if you don't communicate well. You have to communicate clearly and with empathy. There's a lot of empathy in communication. The first thing in communication is clarity. And someone said that clarity is kindness. Actually, when you're clear in your communication, even as a teacher, you are actually being kind to your listeners or to your students. And how can students then be taught, or how can you teach students to communicate well? You can do it in various ways. It could be reading and then writing. We've talked about reflective thinking, where they actually read and think about what they've read and then write something, synthesize the ideas and write them out. It could be role play, where they take on roles of other people and actually put themselves in those shoes and communicate. Even things like MUN, debates, speeches in schools, they give students ample practice to communicate effectively. In class, we also give feedback. Students give each other feedback, especially in my subject, theater. Students watch performances and they listen to other students and then they give them feedback. So giving and receiving feedback requires a high degree of communication skills. So these are some of the things you do. And you find like when students are giving feedback, the students receiving feedback are trying to defend themselves. For example, if it was a performance and they're saying, no, that's not what we meant on stage. And you tell them, no, listen, you have to allow the person giving you feedback to finish giving you feedback. And then possibly you can respond to that. So there's a lot of you as the teacher coming in to try and just intervene so that you reinforce some of these skills. Allow someone to speak, even though you don't agree with them. They have every right to express themselves, and then you can respond to that. But sometimes you find a student who is maybe communicating something that's not popular with the other students, and they're all shouting and they're saying, no, you can't say that. And you tell them, no, that's not communication. We have to allow the other person to speak, hear them out, and then frame our response in response to what they've said. So we cannot do that if we do not communicate effectively. So things like the MUN, model MUN, things like debating, things like in class, you know, as I'm saying, giving feedback and so on, they all give ample opportunity to students to learn communication. And how are you as a teacher modeling this communication? For example, when you're talking with your colleagues, students are watching. Do you talk when you have your phone with you and someone is talking to you, you're on the phone, you're on the screen? Or even a student, possibly, they're talking to you, you're on the phone. Then that is wrong modeling. So we as teachers have to be intentional, especially within the school environment, to model those skills that we want the students to pick up. So communication is one of them. You're listening with empathy, you're listening wholeheartedly, and you're not just giving half-hearted attention to the student or to the other person who is speaking to you. We'll continue looking at all these skills, and as you can see, they form a very important part of social emotional learning. So we'll continue going on, we'll continue looking at the others, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much.